It is the first day of summer, at least meteorological summer, but that's the first day of summer in my book. It's also the first day of hurricane season. And we have two development regions out there in the Pacific. One that looks like it's going to go through tropical cyclogenesis and become potentially a tropical storm, maybe a hurricane. The other one, about a 20 to 30% chance of that happening, but they're out there. And again, this is the first day of hurricane season. So we're going to go over severe weather today. We're going to take a look at the tropics. We're going to take a look at our temperature forecast and outlook and our precipitation forecast and outlook. Here's our severe weather for day one. So you can see down here at the bottom, D1, Monday, 6-1. We have a split slight risk through portions of the southern and central plains and then through portions of the Ohio Valley deep south down here. And then we have that larger marginal risk stretching from the northern plains down through the southeast. Only tornado threat is out here through portions of really Nebraska, western Kansas, eastern Colorado. Again, if you're in this green shaded area, what does that mean? It's a 2% tornado risk. That means there's a 2% chance that a tornado could touch down within 25 miles of any single location within this green risk zone. So very small chance, and it's not SIG'd, it's not hatched, which means even if we do get a tornado, the likelihood of it being a strong tornado, stronger than an EF0 or EF1 is pretty low. Regardless, if there is a tornado risk, it's best to keep your weather alerts on. Here's our wind risk today, 5, 15, 30% chance for strong to severe thunderstorms to develop today that could produce damaging winds. There are some larger cities in the 30% risk zone, including Jonesboro, Arkansas. We've got Clarksdale, Tupelo, Florence, Jackson, and Memphis, Tennessee. Going to the hail risk stretches again from the northern plains all the way down through the southeast. And we do have a SIG-1 here, so we could see 2-3 plus inch hail, some larger hail out here through portions of Colorado, Kansas, Nebraska, and far southeastern Wyoming. Let's go into our day 2 risk, go back to categorical. Large marginal risk stretching from the southern plains all the way up through the northern plains. And then we have that slight risk, or that 2 out of 5 risk for severe weather today through portions of the Dakotas, South and North Dakota. Tornado risk right up there in South and North Dakota tomorrow. This does include Rapid City, Bismarck. And then we're going to go to our wind risk. Again, right up there through the Dakotas, and our hail risk up there. So the most significant risk tomorrow out there in the Dakotas is the potential for large hail and the potential for tornadoes. Getting into our day 3, and don't worry, I'm going to break this down more, and we're going to go over the timing. Getting into our day 3, almost in the same exact location, this marginal and the slight moves a little bit east. Then we push into Thursday, and then we have a day 4 slight. And, you don't always get risk zones out here past day 3. It's not super rare, but it's also not super common. So we could end up seeing this risk zone go enhanced. We could end up seeing this risk zone move a little bit, expand, but it's a day 4. We need more time to see how things develop. All right, let's quickly take a look at our excessive rainfall outlook here. This is for today, portions of the plains. You can see up there northern Montana, and then out here through portions of the Ohio Valley and deep south. We do have an excessive rainfall threat. So make sure if you're in any of these risk zones, you know what's going on during the day. If you live in a low-lying area by a stream, by a creek, obviously you want to make sure that there's no serious flooding going on around you. This is just a marginal risk for flash flooding, or for excessive rainfall, which can lead to flash flooding. So nothing crazy, but it's best to stay weather aware. We've got a day 2 slight out here through portions of western Texas and in eastern and southeastern New Mexico. And then we have that larger marginal risk for excessive rainfall, really stretching up through the plains and then down here along some of the Gulf states. We get into day 3. We also have, this is Wednesday, we also have that marginal risk for excessive rainfall from the southern plains all the way up through the upper Midwest. And again, out there in western Texas, southeastern New Mexico, we have that slight risk for excessive rainfall. So, and if you move this forward here, you can see this threat for excessive rainfall really begins to move its way east as we go through Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So we're going to be getting a lot of rainfall in the plains, pushing out towards the Midwest and the Ohio Valley here moving forward. Climate Prediction Center. Let's quickly take a look at our temperature and precipitation outlook. So this would be from June 6th to June 10th. We're expecting above average temperatures across much of the country except for the Northwest. Take a look at the precipitation from June 6th to June 10th. Above average precipitation for much of the country. Maybe not as much for the Rockies, and maybe below average up there for northern Maine. But for the most part, above average to average precipitation and above average temperatures June 6th to June 10th. Let's take a look at June 8th to June 14th. This is our 8 to 14 day outlook. It's going to be warm for much of the country, especially through the plains and through the Midwest. We're expecting above average temperatures, and for a lot of us in those same areas, we're expecting above average rainfall. So yeah, it's going to start to feel like summer. Now out west, as we get into the middle of June, we could start to dry up a little bit, as you can see here. And then for the month of June, this is just what the Climate Prediction Center is expecting. Overall, average to above average, definitely, especially up there in the northern Rockies. Conditions for the month of June. And then precipitation-wise, could be dry around the Great Lakes region, could be dry in the Northwest, and then average to above average for, above average rainfall for portions of the Southern Plains and the Desert Southwest. So this is actually pretty interesting that they're expecting this for the month of June. I actually got to change the color on this so you can see what I'm drawing a little bit better. That's a little bit better. Okay, I think I can live with that. Anytime you see above average precipitation through portions of the southwest, this can lead to some problems. So we'll have to watch that. And the southeast is expected to get above average rainfall in the month of June. That's good for them because they've been dealing with consistent droughts. So let's take a look at our modeling, and let's break down what we could see today, severe weather-wise. Starting with our 500 millibar, and we're going to take a look at the HRRR, and we're going to go to the 12Z. So as we move throughout the day today, you can see we have this large low pressure system spinning up here across the northern Rockies. You can see our 500 millibar jet stream with this nice southwesterly flow over the Rockies. We have another large low pressure system up here, and this is going to bring us a decent 500 millibar, really a northwesterly flow moving across portions of the Ohio Valley. And these are the two areas where we could see storm organization, and you can see we have that kind of more impressive jet streak here at the 500 millibar level and at the 500 millibar level. And if you remember, that is where, if we take a look at our outlook, that is where we're concerned about severe weather in those two locations, which makes sense where our 500 millibar jet streak is a little bit more impressive. This helps to organize storms. So let's get back to one screen. Taking a look at the 850 millibar as we move forward, and let's take a look at where those jet streaks are kind of where we're seeing the most shear there. We're going to move forward here, and you can see that shear begins to really show itself as we get mid to late afternoon into the early evening across portions of the southern and central plains there. I would say central plains. And then we can kind of see that those jet streaks across the Ohio Valley down there through the deep south, but really not as impressive as what we're seeing over here through the central plains. And this is why we have we have any tornado threat from the SPC out here, 2% tornado risk. You just have a little bit more. Your winds at the lower level, so your low-level jets cranking a little bit more. Let's quickly move into what's going on with our temperatures today. So taking a look at our temperatures and wind, you are going to have a little bit of gradient out here across the plains. That's going to help with some of that forcing. Not really any sort of strong temperature gradient out here through portions of the Ohio Valley where our other risk zone is. We're just going to have very buoyant, very moist air that's going to allow these thunderstorms to form. So out in the plains, you can actually deal with some capping issues. You're not going to deal with any capping issues out in the Ohio Valley. So it doesn't need as much forcing. It doesn't need a sharp temperature gradient to get going, but you can see what's happening out there in the plains. So yeah, it's not the craziest day I've ever seen out here, but I can see why we have a 2% tornado risk, and I can see why we could have some larger hail out here while we have no tornado risk out here, and we don't have that SIG hail risk out here. We could get some small hail out here though. Taking a look at what's going on with our dew points, do we have any sort of dry line setting up across portions of the plains? Not really. It's pretty diffuse. So again, I think it's possible that we do have some capping issues out here. It's not the most moist air that I've ever seen. Although out here, obviously, probably no capping issues, very moist air. You don't need that forcing. Your air is going to be very buoyant. Your parcels are going to be warm. They're going to be buoyant. But I could see there being some issues with some of these storms getting initiated out in the plains, although we expect them to initiate. Taking a look at our severe weather, let's go, and we're going to quickly, before we take a look at the reflectivity and the timing of these storms today, I do want to take a look at a few other things. Let's take a look just at our surface-based cape, although there's going to be plenty of instability likely. You could see lots of instability, and this has to do with all that moisture, higher dew points, and high temperatures across portions of Arkansas, Tennessee, Alabama, southeastern Missouri, and Mississippi. Not as much convective available potential energy out here. Not as much cape out there in the plains, although, again, there's more shear in that area, and if your storms do develop, that gives you a higher chance of seeing some spin-ups. Let's quickly move over. I actually want to take a sounding out of here real quickly before we go over the future reflectivity. Do we have any sort of significant, any SIG-TORs out here? Not much. You see some SIG-TORs showing up here. We'll take a quick sounding, and we'll see what the plains look like as we get into the late afternoon and into the early evening. You could see, look at this inhibition. And that's what I was wondering. There is obviously some rotation, marginal tornado hazard, some rotation in the atmosphere, but there's a lot of inhibition out here in the plains. So it's going to be interesting to see if those storms do actually kick off. There's some SIG-TOR out here through portions of western Tennessee. We'll take a quick sounding out here. I don't suspect we'll have any issues with our storms initiating across the Ohio Valley, but I did want to take a sounding out here. You can see photograph not as impressive as it was out in the plains when it comes rotationally, but lots of cape out here, 4,400 surface cape, and not hardly any inhibition. Just like I said, not really expecting capping issues out there through portions of the Ohio Valley. Let's take a look at our updraft helicity reflectivity, and we'll start in the plains really quickly here. Storms look like they could really start firing off as we get into late afternoon, 3, 4, 5 o'clock. There you go. Then we get into 6, 7, 8, 9, and then, yeah. So I would say things start to look a little bit more significant as we get into around, we'll call it 5 or 6 o'clock. We'll probably be watching the skies out here through portions of Colorado, Nebraska, Kansas. You can see some of these updraft helicity marks. Not the most organized thing I've ever seen. Again, just pay attention. there's always days where it doesn't look too significant, but the severe parameters are there and you end up getting a surprise. So make sure you have your weather alerts on today, again, late afternoon, then through the evening hours. And as we go later into the evening, you can see this kind of bow echo starts to form down here in Kansas. So it'll be interesting to see if this thing can actually get cranking up, and we'll have to watch central Kansas for more of a wind and hail risk, potentially Nebraska as well as we get later into the evening. Taking a look at what's happening down here through portions of the Deep South, Ohio Valley. I guess I should just be calling this area Dixie Alley, right? That's the easiest. That would probably highlight the area we're talking about the most today. So here we go. Throughout the day, some strong storms moving through Kentucky, potentially the Nashville area as we get into the late morning, early afternoon. And then you see a bunch of really just kind of a discrete mode set up here as we get into around 4 or 5 p.m. It is possible to get a spin up in here, guys. It is possible to get a tornado on the ground up here or with this setup, but the SPC thinks it's under a 2% chance. But you can see those storms beginning to move across portions of southern Missouri, southeastern Missouri, really, central to northeastern Arkansas, western Tennessee, and then northern Mississippi, northern Alabama as we get later into the afternoon. This would be 8, 9, 10 o'clock, and then these storms begin to move off south. I think most of this weather today is going to be strong thunderstorms, not severe thunderstorms, but there is the possibility for some severe thunderstorms today. So that's what's going on today. We can quickly take a look at what's going on tomorrow because we can do that with the 12Z. And we're going to be really watching up here through portions of the Dakotas as we get into the late afternoon tomorrow, I believe. There you go. Start to see some strong storms developing across portions of northeastern Wyoming and western South Dakota as we get into around 4, 5, 6 o'clock tomorrow. And then those storms begin to push up into the northeast into North Dakota here. So it's going to be I'd say kickoff early evening tomorrow. Storms in potentially western South Dakota pushing up to the northeast. Strong to severe thunderstorms throughout the evening. Again, nothing super impressive. I do want to go to the Rufus and look a little bit further out really quick because it is interesting that we have, and I don't think I'm going to see it on the Rufus. And then, yeah, here you go getting into, this would be Wednesday. You get another, you can see the Rufus putting some more strong to severe thunderstorms up there through portions of the Dakotas as well, pushing out into the east. And then as we get into Thursday, again, it looks like we're going to be watching for severe weather around this region here. All right, so that's what's going on with our severe weather. I quickly did want to give you guys a tropical update. So let me switch screens here real quick. Here we go. 90% chance of tropical development within the next 7 days. A 40% chance, almost a 50-50 shot at tropical development in the next 48 hours. You can see our spin. Here is our spin in the atmosphere right there. And we do have some convection, some drier air up here to the north. But overall, it's a pretty favorable environment right now. If we were to take a look at the water vapor, we can take a look at the lower levels. Plenty of moisture in here. As we get towards the upper levels, you can see there's a lot of really dry air up here to the north, but these storms are pretty safe down here. And this is obviously looking like an El Nino year with all this convection across the equatorial Pacific. But for the most part, there's no dry air getting in yet. There's not a lot of wind shear here. I went over in my video, what was it, 2 days ago? There's a lot of wind shear up here to the north. A lot of wind shear up here to the north. And this storm is likely, and this storm is going to continue to move north. It's likely going to develop. Maybe it becomes a tropical storm. Maybe it becomes a hurricane. But then it's likely to get shredded to pieces by vertical wind shear to the north. But right now it's in a pretty favorable environment. And it is expected, 90% chance of tropical formation, of going through what we call cyclogenesis, becoming a tropical cyclone within the next 7 days. We also have another storm out here to the east, 30% chance, another tropical disturbance, 30% chance of tropical development within the next 7 days. Hard to really see the spin out here. I'd have to change this here over to what we're looking at. There's not much going on out here. I think we may actually be watching this tropical wave pushing off to the west, but really not much to watch there. I do suspect that we will, like I said, get at least a tropical storm out of this disturbance out here a little bit further off west. And Hawaii, again, right now it doesn't look like this is really a threat to Hawaii. But, you probably want to stay updated if you're in Hawaii because you've got 2 tropical disturbances out to your east that are going to be moving west. Although, like I said, there's a lot of wind shear up here, including moving over Hawaii. You can actually see how quickly these clouds are moving up here to the north. So that's what these storms do not want to enter. They will get shredded to pieces because of that vertical wind shear. So that's what we have today. I will try to hop on later to live stream later this evening. I'm trying to get to my consistency with posting Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and live streaming Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But I appreciate you guys watching this video. I'll continue to keep you updated. If you do want to join my Discord, it has everything I look at here, everything I talk about on my in my streams, and everything I talk about in my videos, it's all on my Discord, updated every single day. And it's just a great place to meet other weather enthusiasts, almost 700 weather enthusiasts in there, and lots of great weather information. All the links to everything I look at, like I said, in my videos as well. Appreciate it. Appreciate any follow, any sub. And if you like the video, of course, like the video. And I'll see you in my next video, or I'll see you in the next live stream. Thanks, guys. See you.